So you look at a person like yourself now, at where you are in life, having gone through sexual abuse, overcome that, and then war, all the post-traumatic stress which comes with war, and you're still here where you are. What does the journey look like after the war? How do you get to where you are now? How long does it take?
Good questions. Very good question. I took myself, when I finished up in the army, my dad said, look, we can see you're really traumatized. You've got money. There's no job to come back to. You're not going to go stay in the army. He said, you've always talked about going back to England and motor racing, Formula One. This might be a good time to think about that. It was such an unselfish statement, and one that she's passed away now, but I'm so grateful he gave me that opportunity. Perhaps another parent might have said, we need you here. We've been worried sick for 2 years. Don't leave again, right? And he virtually gave me permission to go, and it was a good idea. A month later, after I finished with the army, I was on a ship and plane to England. And I stayed in London for about 6 months. And then I bought myself a Volkswagen Combi, decked it out in a hippie wagon. We're now talking about, 1970, 71. The hippie era was well in. I was now growing my hair back. And this had kangaroos and all the 60s stuff on it.
Yeah.
And I drove down to a place called Cornwall in the south of England, where we would go once a year to see the seaside. And no sooner arrived, it was around about autumn, hardly any tourists down there. And I went into spontaneous healing. And I had no idea what was done. I had no religious background. My parents had said, when you boys are old enough, you choose your path. That's not a choice for us. And I'd had no spiritual understanding whatsoever. So this was all totally alien. And I am going through this trauma, screaming, crying, shouting, throwing rocks, all this flashbacks happening. And then occasionally I'd have a moment of absolute stillness and quiet. And the mind had moved away. And I was writing this exquisite poetry, right, which I could never stand at school, which subsequently got stolen in Barcelona. So it was never meant for it to be published or anybody else to read it. It was meant as part of the healing journey. And then the flashbacks would occur, the pain, the anguish. Yeah. And I went for about 4 days with that. And I thought, a couple of times I looked at the rocks. We're right on the edge of the cliff there, the Volkswagen and me. And I thought it would be very easy to end this. Is this how the rest of my life's going to be? Because I had no idea the duration. And I had no idea what was happening or who was guiding me. I didn't even know I was being guided. I was just going through this process. I know now what the guidance was. And then on the 5th morning, I was laying in my bunk. The sun was streaming through the windows, looking up at the roof lining, and it's all gone. Nothing. There's no charge. It had moved from the unconscious into the conscious. And I laid in my bunk there for about 4 hours, going through every minute of Vietnam with no grief, no trauma, no charge, just as if I was watching a movie. Not a painful movie, but just a movie. And I was a silent witness to this, untouched. And that was an extraordinary time in my life. I think that's really what put me on my path. Wow, there's something else beyond this meat body, beyond these thoughts, behind these emotions that I carry, behind this life story that is Rick Purcell. And that something is grander and bigger and majestic. I guess I was touching the first symbols of my sovereignty.
Yeah.
All right. And it was huge. And from that moment on, it's all purged.
Yeah.
I've been back to Vietnam, I think it's 4 times now. Walked into an ex-Viet Cong village, had a huge reunion with, they were my enemy at that time. They were my brothers and sisters this next time. So that was one chapter of my life. And I've built on that. And I thought, what is the meaning of this? I want to go deeper into this,
Yeah.
which led me to India and Swami there.
Insane.